This particular Saturday afternoon in December, on the face of it, was turning out to be just as predictable as most of its recent predecessors. If it wasn't for the fact that it just happened to be exactly 4 years to the day that Carol, my soulmate and wife of 41 years, had passed away. Rather strangely, it was our wedding anniversary too on that very day. She was my everything. At a loose end I was, stood at the street corner opposite the post office, just whiling my time away, which is what I usually do these days. Until, that is, out of the blue, I felt her presence once again materialise beside me, comfortingly so, in just the way she always did, which broke me up no end. Made me smile, it did. You see, between you and me, she's never left me in the railway of things, because whenever I really feel the need, she always manages to come up trumps, so to speak, often just in the nick of time, just the way she did on this particular day in question. Yet deep down I always knew she would, because to me it was always a foregone conclusion that she would never ever forget our wedding anniversary. Made my day, it did, to have her by my side again. Then, as it was preordained, we just happened to hear some rather familiar sounds seeping forth from the slightly ajar upstairs window of the Blue Note bar. Tantalisingly so, which we thought was a trifle unusual for this time of the day. But we, true to form, succumbed accordingly. Like two flies heeding a spider's overtures, we subserviently made our way up those well-trodden stairs to further investigate this rather unusual state of affairs. Irksomely, I had to pause a while at the first landing to catch my breath, which unfortunately is par for the course these days. But make it I did to the upstairs music bar, half believing that my ears must surely be deceiving me. But no, it was true, because there on the stage before our very eyes was a 6-piece jazz ensemble performing A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. And very good they were too. But the icing on the cake for us was the sight of a real-life tuba, which was somewhat somnolently sat upon its genial-looking operative's knees, pouring forth in a way we could hardly believe. Because, you see, the tuba has always been part and parcel in our old family's way of things. For instance, I too played the tuba for donkey's years, I did, until me getting asthma threw a spanner in the works. In fact, me playing the tuba is how I met Carol all those years ago, when she arrived being the new vocalist in the band I was playing in at the time. Well, what can I say? The first time we clapped eyes on one another, we hit it off like a house on fire, we did. And the rest, as they say, is... Anyhow, somewhat taken aback, I ordered a pint of Guinness for me and a dry sherry for Carol, then took a pew. You see, because tubas are somewhat thin on the ground around here, we were determined to make the most of the occasion. Especially so now we realise this band were not to be trifled with, as they soared wherever the musical thermals of the day happened to be taking them. Beautifully so, I thought. Especially so when they were playing our favourite number of all time, A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. I know, because we were there. So with no more to do, I ordered another pint. Now seeing that Carol was happy made me happy too. You see, Carol and me have always agreed that the tuba, without a doubt, always adds that little subtlety to a piece, like a comma does to great literature. To imagine either one without the other doesn't bear thinking about. Well, that's about the top and bottom of the way we saw things on this particular day. Delighted we were to be there, enjoying the outpourings of this very fine band indeed, who thankfully acknowledged the importance of the tuba to them by giving it the free rein it so duly deserved. Which led me to ordering another pint and politely asking the most amiable of barmaids if she would be so kind to ask the band on our behalf to repeat their previous very fine rendition of A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, which they did, and looked delighted to be doing so, they did. Before which the tuba player and I exchanged knowing winks. It takes one to know one, I thought. The vocalists too delightfully added a wicked way into the way of things. They all played out of their skins, they did. Loved every minute we did. After which we both stood and gave them a well-deserved standing ovation, which brought about smiles all round. Well, after all had been said and done and the band had decided to call it a day, we quietly made our way down the stairs from whence we came, with the dulcet tones of the tuba still echoing round my brain, leaving Carol's dry sherry to its own devices. Forlornly so, but that's just the way it is these days, I'm afraid to say. Whilst making our way away, I was mentally thanking the powers that be for rekindling our love affair with the almighty tuba, and the song that our band played when we took to the floor for the first dance at our wedding reception all those many years ago. Oh, I wish I could turn the clock back to that day when the Nightingale really did sing in Berkeley Square. But we can't, can we? Yeah, the afternoon at the Blue Note was the next best thing by a mile. You see, I know because I was there that night in Berkeley Square. The tuba is sort of melancholy, joyous instrument. If you put it in a word, it's like the three things that got melancholy, joyous is the tuba can be both melancholic and joyous. The Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square is melancholic, joyous as well, isn't it? You know that song. And of course, Blossom Dear is singing. A Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. She's the same. So the three together, I thought, would be a wonderful concoction, really. You know, I think. And if the band on stage, obviously, like it to be performed with the band on stage, and the vocalist, and the guy narrating it. As he's narrating the tale, the music will be playing very softly in the background. But then at the end, they will play a Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square in its entirety. Yeah, okay. And then the guy, the narrator, will come back on stage and say, I know, because I was there when the Nightingale really did sing in Berkeley Square.